Welcome to the Warrior Gamer Headquarters podcast. Lieutenant Colonel Ken Crigliano, your co-host. Warrior Gamer Headquarters podcast. Out.
Oh, hi everybody. My name is Josh Hafkin. I'm the founder and CEO of Game Gym. I'm very excited to be here on this podcast to rap with y'all about esports and everything else. My background is in traditional sports. I got into video game publishing and marketing, and then founded Game Gym in 2018. So coming up on 6 years of doing this and doing, youth gaming, trying to help people get better, trying to make games a part of the community and, really just less of a pain point for kids and parents. So, over the years, we've pretty much done it all from summer camps to afternoon programs. And we just launched an eSports training app. So that's kind of our big new thing that we've been driving forward. But excited to rap with y'all about everything and get into it here.
So when you talk about traditional sports, what are you referring to?
So when I was younger, I did all the community sports. I did, did soccer. I was part of in this area, Montgomery County Swim League is a really big organization. I was a swimmer and swam in high school and college, but kind of dabbled in it all. And really got a great experience in community sports. And you're in the DC metro area with me. This area is a powerhouse when it comes to youth sports, youth activities, and kind of creating that pathway from, oh, I like this. Hey, there's a little bit more competitive opportunity, all the way up to hey, I want to take this to college or even go pro in this. All those avenues were super well connected. And so that's really what I wanted to create in the gaming space here. And we've been doing it, and ups and downs along the way, but it's been a blast.
And of course, Ken is muted, as he is in every episode of the Warrior Gamer podcast. Nothing's new. What do you
kids
gotta say?
And animals. I mean,
Consistency, man.
So ridiculous.
Typical.
So I love him because he's a swimmer. Because I swam this morning. I did 2100s
nice.
on
Let's
the
go.
140. So yeah.
Let's go.
So that's good. We talk a lot about like the contrast between physical sports and esports, and like I'm very interested to see how that has given you, I guess, insight and extra superpower with your esports activities.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of helped me on both sides, from taking sports and applying the structure of sports to video games. I know training inside and out. I mean, swimmers, you train and train for months and years for, 50 seconds or a minute, and it's really, more about the training than the competing. The competing is a blip in time. And so, I really took that structure of sports and brought it into the gaming world in both, how we coach, how I train my coaches, how we build practices, how we build a season of practices, kind of all of those things we brought into this world. It's also from the other side, parents say, I don't want my kid to be gaming all the time. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want them gaming all the time either. They will actually be a better gamer and a more well-rounded person if they do some gaming, but then they also have other interests. And whether that's, art or theater or sports or, going outside and take your dog for a walk, like all of that is good. So, I think that I have a unique perspective in the space, and also my age. I'm 35, not trying to hide it. But, for a lot of parents who are a little bit older, they really struggle with this space. So, I grew up with it and in it. And so I feel like I can act as the conduit between traditional sports and esports, but also kind of kids as parents. A lot of kids don't have the vocabulary to explain to their parents why this is important. And a lot of parents don't really understand the value of this or the right questions to ask. So, I really feel like a really well placed to be able to help, kind of all of these different facets of things, whether you are somebody who's casual trying to take this more competitive, whether you're already competitive and you're trying to make it as healthy as possible for you, or you're a parent trying to navigate this world. I totally understand how hard it is for y'all. And there's a lot of resources out there, but it's hard to find. And so, we want to be one of those resources for the people in our community.
It actually says, I'm so sorry, April, I cut you off. You want to?
No, go
Okay.
right ahead.
So there was actually right here on your LinkedIn, it says right here the two biggest things missing from video game and esports are coaching and structure. And it's interesting because I've actually, within my background as a medical student, I'm somebody who likes to see the benefits of video games as well as understanding the cons. So we kind of, in the medical field, we naturally see both, but so would anybody else. And I'm a big proponent for how games can be beneficial in moderation. And there are numerous research papers on this topic that show those benefits, and yet people don't know. And every time I've presented the topic of problematic gaming to, doctors, be it psychiatrists or pediatricians, I always make a point to mention the lack of structure, right? So our backgrounds are actually very similar because I also grew up playing a lot of the traditional sports. And with that, and we've mentioned this a lot on this podcast, that you go to a sports, you have a coach, you have a uniform, you have a time to get there. There is structure, there is balance. And with that, you get an athlete, not just some kind of dude who goes around kicking the ball thinking he's hot stuff, but a proper athlete with sportsmanship, discipline, and a mindset. These are the kinds of things that coaches really instill into people and that gaming doesn't have, because they're at that esports competition playing in front of 10,000, 100,000 people. But up until that point, they were in their pajamas sitting at home. So where is that development is the big question that people are asking. So you're creating game jam is just like, it's honestly just going to help a lot of people. And it's really going to help benefit just the gaming world as far as the stigma surrounding gaming. At least that's how I see it. That's how I see Game Chip is going. Is that like a similar vision to what you have?
Yeah, totally. I mean, think about, teaching football by saying, hey, go watch the NFL and then go do that. Kids would kill each other. Or like, you're training for a marathon, and instead of a plan that you put together with a coach that helps you build up over the course of time, you just run to exhaustion every day. That's the equivalent of how people like train video games. And especially, you might get to college, you might be on a pro team or a semi-pro team and start to get some coaching then. But what you're talking about is coaching at the developmental level, at the peewee level, at the learning level. And you're not just coaching the person in that sport or that activity, you're checking in with them. They have a bad day, you're there to help them out. They pop off on one of their teammates, you kind of check them and help them, express themselves in the right way. And if you're not getting those resources until you're 17, 18, and like you said, that's when we have problems. And I think that, I really talk to parents and I say, hey, if you get your kid a gaming console, it's like getting your kid a puppy. If you leave the puppy in the basement for, unattended, it's going to get into problems, and you don't do that. So bring the puppy out of the basement, keep it in the living room, be attentive, be part of that process. And I think you'll see that both the kid and the puppy, will be much better behaved.
That's what I was going to ask you around the parents and the conversations that you particularly have with parents. What's your perspective? How do you find making that transition to helping them understand that there are aspects of gaming like communication, leadership, community, things that really can be super helpful and transferable into their other lives? What's your take on that front?
It's just empathy to start. Like, it's so hard to be a parent and navigate this world that you don't know. And very rarely in society do we have digital immigrants teaching digital natives. And that's really what we have with parents and kids in this world. And so, I think that the more that you don't know, the more that's scary. It's that kind of like fog of war, like in games when you clear the map and all of a sudden you could see more and you're like, oh, I don't have to worry about what's over there because I know I put a ward and I can see, and there's a little bit more visibility. And I think that parents, a lot of them don't understand. And so a lot of this world is scary. But the more that you know, the more that you can be like, oh, okay, this is what's scary. This is where I need to pay attention. And like these things, I'm not really too worried about. And I think that, a lot of parents, just because it's not their world, they automatically are like, nope, I'm out. Like, like they're not even going to start to do that. So, first I say like, if your kid's going to do this, you have to be involved. If your kid plays tuba, you get into the tuba. If your kid is, in theater, you're reading lines with them. And, or if your kid's into gaming, like you should be gaming with them. And if not, like, sorry, but you're kind of failing as a parent. Like, I know that's kind of harsh, but like, that's reality. Your job is to help them navigate the stuff that they do. And if this is one of them, you could be, one of those parents. And, come on, this is, anybody who's older, it was like rock and roll. It was like, oh, I'm not going to have rock and roll in my house. So what did your kids do? They went over to their friend's house. They went to concerts behind your back. They like did it anyway. Or you could be like, hey, talk to me about these bands that you like. Help me understand, what it is you like about it. Maybe I'll take you to a show. And then this thing that became a pain point can become something that you bond over. Right. So, I think it's so tough for parents, but there's so many, like, I think that you just got to go into it with that growth mindset versus the fear mindset. And if you do it from the start, it's much easier than your kid all of a sudden has access to everything. One of the things that we try to do is teach parents that, it's not the floodgates are open. Fortnite is a big, question. When can my kid play Fortnite? When can my kid play Fortnite? Well, do a test weekend. Say, hey, we're going to download Fortnite and I'm going to watch you and we're going to, be here. And like, if I don't like it and if I don't like the way that you're acting or behaving or whatever, we're going to put a break on this and we're going to revisit it in 6 months. And like, the kid has to agree to that. And like, okay, well, now you set some boundaries for yourself. And it doesn't have to be a floodgates are completely open or they're completely closed. And just that concept alone is something that parents don't even know that they can do. So, we try to educate, we try to be there for them. We try to help them understand, what to worry about and what not. And also empower them to get into it. Maybe you don't want to play Apex Legends with your kid, but you could play Overcooked. Or you don't want to play this, but you could play that. Like, find that middle ground. And the more that you understand, the more that you can help them navigate. And so that's, I feel for parents. I really, really do. This is a tough situation for them to be in.
Yep.
Yeah, there's so much. It's like it's hard to be equipped with knowledge for something that exponentially grew over the course of our lifetimes. I mean, even looking at social media, I mean, I'm not that much, 10 years younger than you, but I mean, nevertheless, when I grew up, we didn't have the social media. At least I didn't have it until middle school.
Yeah. And
then how that changed from middle school to high school to college, I mean, it was like this. And once parents saw that, we grew up with it, so we naturally have this intuition behind it. They don't have that intuition. And gaming was the same way. We understood that competitive gaming was just something on the fringe. We saw it become a multi-billion-dollar industry. Understanding the ins and outs, that becomes very, very difficult for them to process. And I think like definitely the work that you're doing is super important for this. One of the things that you mentioned was like the different types of games, right? For example, you can have games that are difficult for people to play. For example, some of the more complex competitive games, and then you have the more relaxed ones, right? And so how do you kind of navigate how, yes, my parents are trying to understand different games, but there's thousands, tens of thousands of different ones. What are kind of like some shortcuts that you use to bridge that gap between the diversity within the video games themselves?
Oh, great question. To me, it's, talk to kids about what you like or those things, or kids ask your parents what they like. I started playing the PGA game. I've gotten big into golf over the past couple of years. I'm obsessed. I'm like so into it, and it's crazy. You ask, 15-year-old me or even 20-year-old me, like if I would consider myself a golfer, and it's like absolutely not. But now I'm like loving it, and I'm obsessed. But I'm playing PGA with a couple buddies, and like it's so relaxing, and like maybe your dad plays golf. Like Mario Golf is an awesome game. Maybe your dad or mom plays tennis. Mario Tennis is great. Like the whole Mario suite is really just an incredible bridge here. But there's great ways to do it. You could also, check out video game trailers, or look up like, what are great collaborative games. There was a game called Untangled that came out a number of years ago that was graphically just absolutely stunning, but they had this co-op mode that came around and unraveled too, and it was amazing. So I would say that all of this, and just kids and parents, like, you have to talk to each other. And if you're not liking it, we've been on Fridays, when I was growing up, we would pick a movie, and everybody in the family got to pick a movie. Well, like maybe every Friday, you get to pick a game, and then, your parent gets to pick a game, and then your sister gets to pick a game, and you kind of rotate that way, and you try out some different things. There's so many games out there, and so many genres and styles, that I really do think that there's no reason why a kid and a parent can't find some common ground. It might, take you a couple of games to find that one, but like, with the will, there's definitely a way.
Something for everyone.
Yeah.
It really is.
So I'll
Yes.
share a little something. So I have a 7-year-old. He just turned 7 a couple days ago, and I have a 3-year-old. And the 3-year-old can play Starlit, which is sort of like a Mario Kart kind of version. And my 7-year-old's been playing Rocket League for a while, and the dude can beat me now. Look, I grew up on video games, man, and I take that very seriously, and I talk smack, and I get very emotional sometimes, and I cannot believe how good he's getting. But I shipped my dad, we got my dad a Nintendo Switch, thinking he'd be able to, play it in his hands. His hands can't do it too well. So I shipped him an Xbox, and he is so excited about this Xbox. He's like, "You think it's gonna like help me?" And I go, "Yeah, man, it's gonna help like your hand-eye coordination, your fingers, all that stuff." And he's just so elated. He's 75, man. And like, he's like, "I'm gonna play with my grandson." And so we went through this painstaking process of like getting. I will tell you, these video games not easy to set up, man.
No,
Like
it's really hard.
Yeah. Oh man, I just want to cuss. It's a pain, massive pain. Phone, OTP, oh man. But anyway, like he's like, when am I get to play with my grandson? I want to play with my grandson. And he might go around in circles and stuff with the Rocket League and everything, but like he's doing it. He's doing his best. And it's been such a uniting thing for the family. It's been surprisingly a really good topic of discussion, and
I love that.
Yeah, it's really cool, man. Really cool. And I love what you're doing here, because I can just have my dad like download the app and like train now, instead of, because I'm like, "Hey dad, just go on YouTube." He's like, I'm not messing. I don't know how to do that.
Yep.
It's pretty cool.
Well, and the thing I would say to your dad, or any parent who is diving into this, is that there is a little bit of a learning curve with this stuff. To really play some of these games, the goal is to not think. It's just to act and react, especially when you get up into like high level, faster paced games. But, I would say, think about typing. How many times did you have to type "the brown fox jumps over the lazy dog" for you to know where your fingers went, and so like you have to approach things with that way. There may be some frustrating times where your brain is telling your fingers to do something that it's not ready or willing to do. But it's a process. I had the same thing. I was learning guitar, trying to do hammer-ons or do something like that, or get my pinky activated, and my brain telling my pinky to do something is very similar to this. So, that's why I'm a huge advocate for music and gamers, because if you can tell your brain to tell your fingertips to hit something in a specific rhythm at a specific time, you're gaming or you're playing music. And so, if you're putting down the games and picking up an instrument, to me, that's a great thing. You're working on your skills and you're, doing something else with your time.
I think Ken's point, I love that story, Ken, that the intergenerational connection and connect is amazing. And 7-year-olds get into flow state faster than the rest of us. So they learn faster, they do things faster. But Josh, I was wondering if you could tell us more about your app. Ken said, I can tell my dad to just download the app. We interviewed Fit Gamer not long ago, and they've got an amazing app. I'm wondering what your app does for folks, and if you want to brag a little about what you've built.
Sure. I'm really excited about this. And this is our newest venture. Game Gym has been pretty hyper local to the DC metro area for a long time. And we've done private lessons, afternoon programs. We have an award-winning summer camp program. And, we've done all that live and local. But, my question was, how can one coach 1,000 gamers? How can we become the Peloton of esports? That's really what we're trying to build here. So the way that the app works is, we've got new workouts that drop in a variety of different games, almost every day. We cover 7 different esports titles, including Minecraft. And, the goal is every day there's a workout. We have over 500 workouts currently, and we're growing. My goal is for us to be the largest esports training database in the world. Right now, the best resource for our whole profession is YouTube, and that's absolutely insane. So, in a game gym workout, you take Rocket League, for example. There's 10, 15 minutes of warm up, 15, 20 minutes of working on a skill or strategy, and then 30 to 30 plus minutes of putting that skill or strategy into action. We are not reinventing the wheel. This is the same as a soccer workout or a basketball or a swimming, workout. We're just taking what works in other sports and applying it to this. In addition to the daily, our workouts kind of build over the course of a season. So our seasons are cyclical. We've got a fall season that's September to December. We've got a spring season that's January to April. And then we got a summer season that is, May to August. And the goal is along those seasons, we are working on fundamentals. We are putting things into practice and doing a little bit more advanced things in the middle. And then at the end, we're getting you ready for competition. And whether that's one of our competitions or something in your neighborhood, like we don't really care. It's just hard to study if there's no test. And if you're going to put in all this work, we want to provide for you, some kind of competition at the end. And so, when I say the 2 biggest things missing from this world are coaching and structure, that's really what we're trying to provide. We're trying to provide consistent coaching, consistent structure over the course of a season so that you can navigate this, not by yourself, that you have somebody who's telling you, hey, this is what good work looks like. And also, hey, you put in good work today, go do something else. We want people to do a workout or 2 and then go do something else in the same way that you can pop around the gym for 4 hours, or you could do a 45-minute HIIT workout and be in and out and much more efficient. I think gamers play way too much. Gamers don't warm up. Gamers play too long. And, to me, it's a lot of the issues that we see in gaming are based on, not really knowing how to do these things. It's not that you're trash. You just didn't warm up. It's not that your teammates are trash. You're just playing too long, and that, your bandwidth to give them leeway is just, doesn't exist anymore. Like maybe your teammate did something at the beginning of the round, but you're like, oh, whatever. And then 3-4 games later, you get them on about the same. Well, the same thing happened. Your reaction changed. And that's because your brain is tired. And so, I really try to educate people on why we built things this way is because this is how it's best to train for all things. You can't go and lift biceps every day and expect your biceps to grow. You lift biceps, you take a break, you rest, you recover, you do legs, you do cardio, you do whatever. And then, 2 days later, you come back and you do biceps again. Like we're not reinventing the wheel. We're just taking the structure that works for other things and applying it to this world. And the app is the way to do that. And so it's available on iOS and Android. There's a free trial that you can test it out for a week and see things. We've got new videos dropping almost every single day. And the more successful we become, the more we can do it. My goal is to, like I said, have this be the largest esports training database in the world. And ideally, we have a new video in every game that drops every day. That would be my dream.
That's amazing. You know,
Yeah.
I want to, you know, every episode we identify nuggets that get dropped, and like, some people may not understand like what he just dropped. He just dropped like, this is why I love swimmers, because let me just explain. In swimming, it is, I don't care what anybody says about any other sport. It is the hardest. I don't care. You're deaf, dumb, blind, you can't breathe. Okay. And you're doing thousands and thousands and thousands of strokes with your hands and feet, all coordinated at the same time without any of your senses working. It's unbelievably hard. And I know he said 50 seconds or whatever, but like Michael Phelps trained 4 years for like 1.5 seconds, you know,
Yeah.
like the amount of precision understanding it takes in that sport. And so he dropped mesocycles, microcycles, he dropped Tudor Bumpa, he dropped Arthur Lydiard and Chris Carmichael, all training theories, all in like 5 minutes. And so what that means is I can validate that this guy's the real deal. Okay, if you question what's happening. So he's taking these proven sports concepts and models that have taken thousands of years to build, and is applying them to esports in a very scientific way. And I think that's incredible. Absolutely incredible. I love it. I know you know Chris Carmichael, right? You're familiar with him, right?
Yeah, I've heard of him.
Yeah, so his coaching platform, I know him personally. So his coaching platform would be a really good like model to emulate, and you're probably doing that. And I love this. I want to sign my kid up like for it. I want to see what happens. Pretty cool. So that was my take.
We're still learning. You know, we're still learning. We're still getting better. The games are always changing. There's new games emerging. You know, it's a huge opportunity in this space. And you know, thank you for your kind words. You know, I think that we are, like you said, we're taking things that a lot of people have taken time to figure out, and we're applying it to this new world. And it feels revolutionary, but it's really not. You know, it's just a little bit more time and attention to the activities that our kids do or that we do to make them a little bit more efficient for ourselves.
Now, how is the process of getting all of this growing? How's that going? Because I feel like as gamers, our understanding of gaming is far, far, far beyond anything that it remotely resembles right now. And we're trying to take that ideal, which we know exists, and work our way towards that. And yet in the process, there's so much groundwork that needs to be done. So how has your experience been just kind of laying that foundation and then taking off?
It has been a long road. This is one of the hardest things that I've ever done. You know, we started off as a live venue. We grew and had a lot of success. I signed a 5-year lease September 2019, and then we got shut down March 17th, 27th. I had to pay a huge termination fee to get out of the lease. We pivoted all of our programs online. One of the things I was really proud of during that time is we got shut down. I think it was March. I want to say 27th, because that seems closer. And I want to say it was crazy. And then spring break was that next week. We launched an online pilot camp like April 4th. And, you know, we had 6 or 7 kids join, and it was awesome. When Friday ended and we realized, you know, that camp online would work, and we had those same camp feelings on Friday that you'd be like, man, I'm really going to miss you guys. Like, I was like, wow, something's on to something here. And so we pivoted all of our program online. We started new programs. And, you know, we survived COVID, but every dollar I made, I tore up in either rent or this termination fee. So, we were growing for 2-3 years. Then, we were stagnant in growth. And, then we did a small friends and family investment round. So, I've done this for 6 years, and I would say that, I don't think I've had 2 years that have ever been the same, with the same goals, with the same programs being like, hey, we know what we're doing, like, let's drive forward and like just perfect. No, every year has been survival, trying to keep the head above water, trying to figure out what sticks, trying to, find new industries, because, or not industries, but communities. When you're online, they're like local, it's very easy, it's hyper local. Then you're online, you're competing with everybody. And now we've kind of got this hybrid online, offline program. And, so our success has really been about our ability to pivot and repivot and, work on something until it no longer is viable, and then move on to something else. And it has been the hardest thing in the world. I have a very wonderful support system in, my wife, my family, the community here. But, you talk to anybody who has been with me throughout this, like, there are really bad days. But I think that, what we're doing has a lot of value. I think that the kids and parents that we've impacted them greatly and profoundly. And for me to be able to be somebody who created something, who birthed this idea, and then see it iterate in all these different forms, I'm very proud of what we've done. And, it's been a journey. And, if we are able to, continue on this path and continue to grow this and actually create that, the world's largest database, it will be because of a lot of perseverance and a lot of, really great support along the way.
Absolutely.
That's cool, man. What's interesting, what's frustrating to me on these new, the new platform of delivering games, like, it's free and you buy upgrades and stuff, and it's massively online, is just trying to find friends. It's impossible to find friends online for me. When I'm in the game, I'm like, hey, that's a cool player, we had a good time, we played like 2 or 3 games. I can't even add them as a friend because I have to know like their ID, and and so I'm curious, how are you addressing that aspect? One of the best things for us as parents, we want them in, like, my kid plays real soccer too, and that's why I love him. He plays rocket. I see his physical performance improving, how aggressive and like how fast, and his understanding of physics. It's unbelievable. Like, I'm so fortunate to see a human growing, and so I'm like he has friends and they want to hang out together, and we don't have that online. So I'm curious, like, are you addressing that at all, or do you see that as a gap?
We did it more when we were live. When we had the community center, kids would come in, we had a whole crew of kids who grew up in our space. We were their safe space. And they would come in shy, and, a couple of days later, they'd be doing backflips down the middle of the thing. It was, it was really amazing. Now we've shifted over to this model that is trying to coach, more people. So it's my goal is, how can one coach 1,000 gamers? I think that there are avenues to do that. And we have a Discord, and we've got like a looking for group section, and like we help people and facilitate those things. But I think that, it's a huge issue, and it's tough, and it's tough to find those people. Like you said, or, sometimes, as a parent or a kid, you're just like, I don't really know. I might have played 1 or 2 cool games with this person, but like, I don't really know who they are. So I think it's tough to do that digitally. And I think there should be a better resource of kind of like vetting people, or almost like a matchmaking, kind of thing, not, romantically, obviously. I mean, that would probably be successful too, where you like match people, you know, like a guy and a girl, and they're like, hey, we both like this, and you could play this game together. Like that would work, but you know, not for kids. But yeah, I mean, I think that there's absolutely a need for it, and it's an issue at this point, like finding those people. But what I will say is that those people are in your community. You know, you can everybody plays these games, and I think, like, you know, check in your school, like start your smash club at your school, or you know, there might be other people, and you know, start where you're at, whether it's a team that you're on, community center, you know, your school. Put up a flyer, you know, be brave, and I promise you, I promise you that you will be rewarded for your bravery if you do those things, and other people will stand up and say, like, oh, I like that too.
I can add, I have a lot. So I run our esports program at Illinois Tech. Over the years, I've had multiple kids meet in game, and many of them are married now. Back in the day, we would go to the dance to meet people. These days, they go, they go in game to meet people. They meet people in the lobby. They meet people in game. I had an
It's
idea
true.
for you, though. I was thinking about what you're saying, and one of the things that I'm researching are the serious games that are being put together by companies like Caterpillar and Salesforce and other folks. I can see your product adding a lot of value to what they do. So if you gamify, fixing this engine, who does it the fastest, who's the most efficient, who has fewer mistakes, and you coach on fixing that engine, I bet you could sell some really cool contracts to those companies. Just
That's
a thought,
interesting.
just
Yeah,
another vertical for you.
I love that.
'Cause,
I mean,
it's
that's
a
so smart. Yeah,
Thank you.
The gamification of learning is like
huge.
extremely important. I'm working on something. It's somewhat of like a narrative review research article. Basically, what I'm looking at is there a benefit to rhythm games like Guitar Hero, Dance Dance Revolution, and specifically looking at how it affects the autism spectrum community.
Cool.
There's not a whole lot of research on this. But if there are benefits associated with music for kids with autism, which there are, I'm inclined to think that these rhythm games would also have some sort of benefit. And if we, I guess, create that question, like theorize this question and then turn it into practicality, I think you all are equipped to do that, possibly, maybe, I don't know. But that's
Yeah,
another idea, like gamification. It's huge.
it's huge. And you know, what you're talking about is so cool. Like, there's a couple of things that I think are validators for parents. Like, one, seeing games used in the ways that you're talking about, or I've seen games that specialize with ADD and ADHD, or behavioral issues, where the game will purposefully frustrate you and you have to manage your emotions, and those kinds of things. And there was just a game, not just, maybe it came out a year or two ago, but it was approved by like the FDA and like other like official, maybe not FDA, the food and drug,
USTA.
US. Yeah, it was one of an official organization as like, oh, this game helps with ADD and like
Oh,
things like that.
yeah,
Do you know what I'm talking
it
about?
is FDA approved. Yeah.
FDA, okay.
Yeah, because they approve medications that games they kind of
Yeah. And so, like, I think as parents and people who are unfamiliar with the world see those kinds of things. The other thing, April, you're talking about, anything associated with a university is a massive validator. Parents don't, really, my business partner, he really thought, gaming was a waste of time until his son got a big old scholarship to be an analyst, not even a player, an analyst for Ohio State's League of Legends team. And then he was like, oh, wow, okay, there's
yeah.
something here. And I think that college and some of these more periphery things, seeing people who are in sports get really involved in it, those are huge. Oh, there you go.
Endeavor
Yeah.
RX, that's the
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
There's actually a video, a YouTube video you could check, Digital Doc Games. He has a YouTube video where he actually plays this. Pretty cool.
It's amazing. I mean, so yeah, I mean, I think that there's, games are a huge opportunity for all of us to, learn, to expand. And I think that, parents need to understand that these can be, just like anything, they can be a wonderful tool. They could also be a pain point, in the same way that gymnastics can be a great thing, but it can also lead to an eating disorder, or like everything is, needs to be approached with balance and parent involvement, and that mindset. And I think that the more we do that across all of our kids' activities, the better chance that they will have for success.
You're
Yeah,
so right on the university front. When I was able to convince them to let me give scholarships to our students, our applications went up even. We've got a checkbox on the Common App where I was able to ask, are you a gamer? Are you interested in esports? If so, which sports? And it's really a validator for parents to know that there are games that you need more math than you do for your statistics courses.
Yeah.
There are
Yeah.
games where you got a Excel sheet open on one screen and the game on the other screen.
Yeah. I mean,
And,
games are just puzzles. That's really all they are. And whether it's, clearing this room of enemies, and those enemies may be zombies or Nazis or aliens or whatever, it's a puzzle, like that's really what all games are. It's just a variety of puzzles. And the other big validator is that a lot of companies are now looking for people who think these ways. Ken, I see you nodding, but cybersecurity, all of these amazing tech fields. Ken, in your wet neck of the woods, Northern Virginia, we did a deal with the Fairfax County Economic Development Authority. They have over 100,000 high-paying tech jobs. 100,000, like currently, like now. And they are eyeing gamers and people who think that way because of, the constant puzzle solving that games really are. And if parents see this as something that can be a valuable activity, in the same way that sports and music and theater and all these other youth activities can be, then we should invest in them the same.
Yeah. So this is really funny. And we wrap it up in a few minutes, but so I grew up on like SimCity, Age of Empires, managing like
Yeah.
resources, and like this is what I do now, right? And it's really funny because I built like a civilization version for the defense industry. And I couldn't believe, I was like, oh my God, I think I just built like Civilization. So my wife loves Roller Coaster Tycoon. So she bought Roller Coaster Tycoon for my 6-year-old and for Christmas. And in about 2 weeks, he is beating her in that game. And it's really funny. Bilal, we spoke a long time ago about like Go, right? Like AlphaGo, and how like the creativity that AI was like discovering on how to defeat, the human opponents. Like my kid, he's like doing these things, and we're just like I would have never thought about doing that. Like, and
Kids are artists, man.
unbelievable. I mean, it's
They're
absolutely
artists.
unbelievable. Like the way that they're thinking, and I'm like, oh my God, we got to expose him to all kinds of different games, and we're doing it right now where he's like playing a bunch of different things, and it's unbelievable, the results. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, you mentioned the word art, Josh. I mean, these are parallels that you're creating. I've explained to folks how Minecraft is literally just it's a playground, and the possibilities are quite literally endless. I mean, it could show you pictures and videos of some of the things people create, and if you just played the game for a few minutes, you'll begin to appreciate just how impressive these displays of art are. They really are. These are skills. It's just done online. It's just done through a video game.
I agree. And it really is, Picasso said, all kids are artists. The trick is to remain an artist as you grow up. And I think that Minecraft, that sandbox, allows you to play. It allows you to build. It allows you to imagine. And, as we get older, for a variety of reasons, we're less willing to do those things. We're less willing to put ourselves out there. We're less willing to imagine. And we've created these shortcuts in our brain that, protect ourselves and whatever, but they also keep you in the safe place, in the safe paths. And I think that kids don't have that yet. And so being able to explore these things in a safe way and ideally supervised and structured and those things, there's wonderful, wonderful opportunities that games can present kids and parents, but you got to have that growth mindset, which is, I think, tough as we get older.
Ken mentioned Roller Coaster Tycoon. One of my favorite students, Julie, is an engineer now because of that game. She
That's
wanted to
awesome.
learn how to how to actually. She said she played it constantly as a kid, and she wanted to learn how to build real roller coasters. So she went to school for that.
That's amazing.
And
I don't think that
games.
story is too uncommon these days, too.
Right. Games like Assassin's Creed come to mind where they've done like, LiDAR scanning of real historic spots to
Sure.
really let you even just travel in game, and like Cyberpunk, 2077, where you can just explore, where there's an element of RPG where you don't, it's not necessarily um, you know, it's not necessarily about the competition. It might be just about the beauty of the game or a conversation with an NPC. As we've talked about this before, I'm really excited about the AI and NPCs and the growth there, and what that's going to look like in the future. So that was my question for you, Josh. What are you excited about in the gaming industry for the future?
Hmm. Interesting. I totally agree with you. Have you seen Free Guy, the Ryan Reynolds
Oh,
movie?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
that's the future. Like, we
yes.
are gonna have like they will create, or in Tron, the consciousness was born, and like, these are things that will probably come and open our minds even more so to things. um I am interested in, the it's interesting. Our space, I think, has been dominated by, at least in the last couple of years, the game developers having all the power and a lot of investment dollars. And that recently has been all blown up. And people understand, these games that we love are businesses. They really only care about you because you are a lifetime value thing. But more kids know about that now. More people know about that now. Ken, you talked about that shift from, I used to buy a game to games as a service where, I give you the game for free because I know that the lifetime value of you is much more than $30 or $60. So I think that, one, consumers are becoming more intelligent, and I think that that is going to be great for our industry. The other thing is that, there's been a huge course correction in the industry, a lot of bloat, a lot of excess, a lot of snake oil salesmen have been cut out in the last little bit. And I think that our future will be brighter, based on the companies and programs and things that we're able to, or are able to, survive. They might not all, but I think that this course correction is healthy. It was needed, and I think that, hopefully it leads to better things in the future. I also think that, the all the people, April, that you deal with, like, all these kids are brilliant, and they are, coming with new ideas and new things and AI and this and that, and like I don't even know what is coming, but it's exciting, and I think that that's like one of the things that, gives me a lot of energy. I tend to be jaded about things and struggle with my passion for things sometimes, and then I'll go talk to a group of kids at a school or a college, and I will come back completely energized because you know they aren't, mushed down by life yet,
Right.
and they still have that. And so I think that, whatever the future is, like, if they're driving it forward, it's going to be bright.
Oh, brilliant. I'm so spoiled. I just I love talking and spending all my time with college kiddos, because you're absolutely right. They're so excited about the future. They're wanting to build a world that they want to be in, and it's just wonderful to be around them.
Yeah. And I think they have more, they're much more savvy than my generation was. My generation was fed a lot of, hey, you do this, you play ball, you go to college, blah blah blah. But then the whole ecosystem changed while we were doing it. This generation and these generations, things will change, but it's all of information is available to you now. When the internet, there's kind of this pre-internet and post-internet, and it's like pre-awakening and post-awakening. And I think that this generation that's coming like understands they're willing to call bullshit. They're not going to sit at some job forever and just like waste their life. They want to have purpose, and they realize that the time is short, and a lot of people are lying to them. So they're savvy. They are they're skeptical, and I think that in the same way that there was a course correction, in the esports industry, there's a course correction generationally that I think is occurring now, and this generation, and the generations, the generations that are a little younger than me and the ones that come after are going to hopefully drive us to a much better and brighter future.
I like that answer. And
Love it.
do you think, our generation, I'm in my 40s, but like our generation wasn't too excited about going into politics to affect those kind of changes, where they're more about business, like running companies that could scale and everything. And do you think that this newer generation has not only just the desire, but the wherewithal to kind of like go from a policy perspective and affect change from top down too?
Yeah, I do. And they're so much more aware of it. Younger kids are so much more engaged in politics at a local level, at a national level, at a global level than, any generation before that. And I think that the big thing with that, I think, is we need to make sure that the platforms that are feeding them this information, they may not always have the best intentions in mind. We've got essentially Musk, Zuckerberg, and whoever owns
Bezos.
TikTok, Bezos, whoever, are dictating.
Chinese government owns
the
TikTok.
Chinese government, exactly, are essentially, curating our feeds. And so, do I think that those are the best people to lead us to this bright new future? Like, absolutely not. And I think that kids need to be skeptical of their feeds and understand, wow, I'm this way and I'm getting fed this. That's interesting. I wonder what's about that. Like there is more at play, but hopefully, with that skepticism that they have, they're answering those questions. But I think politically there is like I said, the information, all of time is available to you now. You can understand, all of history via, a couple YouTube videos, and it just gives you context. Or I want to dive into ancient Rome. I want to understand the United States in the 60s. I want to understand, Israel-Palestine conflict and like what's going on. Like there's so much information that, you have access to. And now it's really about, where is that information and is it a trusted source? It used to be a little bit more that our sources were trusted. Now I think the next generation has to deal with, they might be more politically active, but who's pulling the strings on what I'm seeing and being fed, and ask those critical questions. And I think they are, but we should all be asking ourselves as we look at our feeds, what am I being fed? And is there an agenda here? And is it the agenda that I have based on, who I've followed and my friends? Or is it something that maybe I'm being fed because it's an election year? And we should all be very aware of those things.
Yeah. And they paid for it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I teach a course about how you can buy ads and digital, digital dust, and Google ad ID, Apple ad IDs owns your life, man. So yeah, I get it. And that's great, because I remember turning 17 and being like, I think I have to like do this voting thing. Like
Mhm.
I went to the ballot. I don't even know any of these people. Like I don't care about any of these people, and that shaped me. Like if I don't know you, I mean, you got to earn my vote. And these kids, like, I mean, this like 10-year-olds talking about politics now. Like I never ever did that when I was a kid. So that's cool. It's a great point, man. I appreciate you sharing that point. So, all right, any more questions around the horn, Bilal?
I think we finished it off smoothly.
That was great. April?
Yeah, that was fantastic. My question is always the same though. What started you on your route? What made you brave enough to go independent and say, I can make this entrepreneur thing work?
One, I've been incredibly fortunate. My parents have helped me out. I've, done a variety of things and had a great system that helped me. But one of the when I was working, I worked at Bethesda Softworks before I started Game Gym, and this was a company that we won Publisher of the Year when I was there. I was on Wolfenstein 2, which was a great success, an incredible game. And I was on Quake Champions, which was kind of a failure, but really beloved in terms of the IP. And I learned a lot. And when I was there, Pete Hines was a really an inspiration. He was a great leader. He stuck up for people. He did the right things. And through being at Bethesda and seeing that, I realized that I loved esports. I loved the competitive side of esports. And I knew what was getting greenlit down the pipeline, and no esports titles were coming, and Quake was kind of struggling at the time. And I went to QuakeCon in Dallas, and QuakeCon is a really cool event. Anybody who has an opportunity to go should check it out. It's a 100% fan driven event, like volunteer organized, very much like MagFest here in the DC area, which is also a very cool event people should check out. But I was at QuakeCon, and it felt like everybody there was exactly where they should be. And I felt like something was off. And I was like, why is that? And I was like, well, because I'm not pursuing this thing that for me was really calling me. And so, it was really being at Bethesda and seeing the authenticity of like what they produce, what they believe in. They single-handedly like keeps, single player games alive and some of these other things. Um, and being around Pete and some of these other people there really showed me that, it was a bunch of smart people in a room just trying to figure it out. And if I could get a couple other smart people in the room with me, like we could probably figure this other thing out too. And so, it was really being at Bethesda that helped, be the catalyst for me saying, I'm going to go start this thing. I'm going to go start Game Gym. And we started as an afternoon program and did some private lessons. And, now 6 years later, we've got an app. We launched, we own and operate a collegiate esports conference with 18 different schools. We operate a high school league. We've, trained hundreds of coaches. We've helped thousands of kids. And, I feel like none of that would have happened if I hadn't had my experience at Bethesda and just that feeling that, you know, that, when you're in the right place. And it was the right place. It was a great experience, but I knew that esports and this was my home. And so it allowed me to kind of pursue that with a little bit more passion. And, the coolest thing is when I went in and told Pete that I was quitting to start my own thing. He was incredibly supportive of me, and he even came to the Game Gym and spoke to the kids and parents at one point. And Pete Hines is a god in this industry, and here he was in our little place in Rockville talking to 10 kids and parents. And so that's kind of who he was, and that's who I wanted to be, and that's what I want a Game Gym to be. So yeah.
That's fantastic. You are truly, I mean, you never know how great you are when you're in the midst of building things, but I see the work you're doing as foundational for the industry right now, particularly because we need that legitimacy. We need that structure. We need what you're providing, and we need parents to understand that it is okay, that it's not it's not something that you need to drag your kids away from. So
It's
thank
true.
you very much for doing what you're doing. And any way we can support you, let us know. Right, guys?
Well,
100%.
thank you for asking wonderful questions and allowing me to come on and blab about all this stuff. Like I love it. It's been a real honor and privilege to be able to do it for the last 6 years. And doing things like this is an absolute joy. So thank you for the platform and the opportunity.
We got an app.
Hey,
That's
Oh.
the
It's on the
that's the
app.
app. Mhm.
Ken's on the app.
Yeah, I got it. So I'm gonna explore it and
Yeah, man. Give me your feedback too. It's version 1. I'd love to be able to say that it's in beta. It's not where it's out there, but it's we're still iterating. So thank you, and anybody from your community that's interested or has any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. My email is josh@gamegym.com. If you're a parent and you have questions, if you want to check out our app and you have questions, or you check out our app and you have feedback, all things open, I'd love to hear it.
cool. Yeah, I'll
Awesome.
do it. And he's got all good reviews. The only poo-poo reviews are people complaining that they have to pay for something, and I downvoted them. So hopefully we'll get them out of the way.
That's true.
But yeah, so whatever you do, it
Typical.
looks great. I mean, it's a beautiful. I'm a huge stickler on GUIs, like huge, and this looks really good.
All right,
So,
let's go.
yeah, so
That's
all
great.
right.
Thank you.
Well, I appreciate everyone joining us, and if they want to get in contact with Josh, you see his name there. He's on LinkedIn. And is there any other way besides downloading the app? Obviously, everybody should do that. How would they get in touch with you? What's your preferred method?
Email's fine. On Twitter, extra barbecue is my tag. Yeah, just any way you could reach out to Game Gym. I'm there. All avenues essentially run back to me. Our handles across all platform are Game Gym eSports. Our website is gamegym.com. And yeah, I'm Josh. Happy to rap with y'all about anything.
Cool. All right, we're out.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay, good. And my record button.
He's gonna figure it out eventually.
They always hide it. They hide it. They hide it.
These are classic. These
That's
are
true.
classic Warrior Game.
Warrior Gamer Headquarters Podcast. Out.